Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Jaime Soretta. On this podcast, we celebrate everything local. And our next guest has dedicated her life to uplifting local, not only through her organization, her nonprofit, Local First Arizona, but she knows the trials of a business owner through being one herself with her record store, Stinkweeds Records. So may I introduce the queen of local in Arizona, Kimber Lanning. Kimber, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you very, very much. I'm excited to be here.
It's such a treat to see you because I always know you have your finger on the pulse of everything moving forward with local in Arizona. I mentioned Local First Arizona, the nonprofit that you created, you founded, but you started as a teenager, as a record store owner.
That's right.
You grew up in Glendale. Tell me about this record store, how this happened.
So I opened the record store Stinkweeds in 1987 and started small. Took a leap. I basically just went and called phone numbers in the windows of places that were for lease, negotiated a good lease, and jumped in. And I pretty much worked all day, every day for the first 3 years until I could finally hire someone. So
I bet you wish you had a Kimber Lanning in your corner back then. Because what was it about being a business owner that you thought, gosh, we need more resources to support businesses?
Well, the honest truth is, you know, the record industry, almost more than any other industry, is rife with, backdoor deals and giant corporations that are manipulating the marketplace. And so I also started a coalition, or was part of a coalition of record stores across the country called the Alliance of Independent Media Stores. And it really opened my eyes to how these struggles were universal, how the big manufacturers of these products were partnering with the big box stores and shutting out the little independent retailers. And that's true across multiple industries. That's not unique to just the music industry. It's just that I had a front row seat to this corporate dominance and really the extraction of wealth and opportunities from our communities. Those same things limit what we can hear on the radio, and they also limit opportunities for bands in, quote unquote, underserved markets from ever getting a look, so to speak, from a larger label. So those types of pressures are really what pushed me to launch Local First Arizona. And in between there was another business, Modified Arts, which I still have as well, which I opened up in the late 90s, which enabled me to promote shows, a lot of concerts, live music for about 12 years, and also entree into building mid-career artists here in the downtown core.
And you still have Modified Arts, right?
I do, yeah.
So we can find you for a gallery space.
Yes.
Local First is celebrating how many years?
Local First Arizona this is our 20th year.
Wow.
Yeah. And the first 6 years was just me. So the honest truth is I have a hard time counting those 6 years because it was just me trying to figure it out. But I did build a coalition of 800 businesses from my living room because people were upset that these big corporate stores were getting subsidies. Again, government subsidizing independent, these single locations, like Cabela's out in Glendale got a $68 million subsidy from the city of Glendale. And when people started to recognize how unfair that was, and really, frankly, how outrageous that was, they got on board, and they got on board in large numbers.
How many employees do you have now?
Staff, we have 56.
Wow.
56 staff all across the state of Arizona. And our focus and our belief, really our core belief, is that local, independently owned businesses, not only, we hear all the time, they're the core, the backbone of our economy, but really they help us retain jobs and money recirculating in the local economy. The U.S. economy is a consumer-driven economy, and we often forget, just as everyday residents, that we're driving the economy. And if, we turn on the nightly news and we think somebody else far away is controlling the economy or somebody else is going to fix the economy. And the reality is the choices that we make every day directly lead to the outcomes of how are we doing? What kind of opportunities do our kids have? And so that's what I'm trying to do, is really put the power back into the control of the people.
And I remember seeing you during the pandemic, standing next to Governor Doug Ducey at the time, talking about getting money into the local business owners' hands.
Yes.
At the time, we were seeing some big checks go out to big corporations, and you were at the forefront of that fight. During that fight, you also went into small towns. You went into our small cities. You were working with our tribes, something that you continue to do now. Tell me how the business focus has broadened now to focus on the towns and those cities.
Sure. So, yes, at the end of the day, we ended up distributing $52 million in small business relief aid. And I'm really proud to say that when we launched that project, we had applications from all 15 counties within 24 hours, which shows you that we've built a really broad footprint and we know people across the state in our cities and towns. As a result of watching the federal government begin to roll out these massive programs and looking at how easy it was for bigger companies to jump in with their lawyers and begin to suck up those resources, we launched the Arizona Economic Recovery Center, which is now called the Resource Center, specifically to deploy capacity building professionals to help make sure that not only just people think of small businesses, but also cities, towns, tribes, counties can really compete for these dollars. First of all, that they're educated, informed, but also we can deploy grant writers, project managers, and others that can help them really be successful in winning those federal dollars to implement projects that will create jobs and transform those communities. So I'm really thrilled to say that so far, since we launched, we've helped win $46 million additional dollars for the state of Arizona, which is a large amount of money, and we're just getting started.
And this is something 20 years ago, you were sitting in your home, in your living room with a couple hundred businesses under. What does that feel like, Kimber?
I honestly don't really stop and think about it, but it is a bit shocking when I realize the impact that our team is making. I'm so fortunate to have so many wonderful people around me. We have just a great team of talent, and we have people now that have extensive careers that are jumping on board with Local First Arizona because they can see, number one, we're great at ideating, but number two, we're implementing. It's one thing to stand around and say, you know what we ought to do. But how do you actually create an effective program and then roll it out and make it work and make it sustainable for the long haul? And so, in the beginning, people were like, well, this is just a kind of a crazy idea. I'm not sure if that's going to work. And today, we have an incredible team of professionals working on a new model for economic development.
And so I think of your background. Were you studying city planning or economics? What do you think helped prepare you for this role that you created for yourself and now our whole Arizona gets to benefit from?
I appreciate that question, and people ask me. So I didn't study these things in college. I learned about local economy work through the record business. I learned about city planning and adaptive reuse through my work at Modified Arts. When I opened up an art gallery on what was then just Roosevelt Street, there were no other arts entities anywhere near there. The light rail was going to fly past Roosevelt and not stop there. And so I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. Other artistic businesses moved into that community, and we created an arts district that turned out to be one of the top 10 in the country. And there's a lot to learn in there. So I would say more than a formal education, I've had hands-on learning. And I've been, again, fortunate to be able to layer these things in a way that has made me incredibly effective with Local First today.
And if you were listening, yes, Kimber Lanning was on Roosevelt Row before it was hot. Row. I mean, years before. It is what it is today. You found that spot, and I know that it was your love of Arizona. You saw so many of your friends leaving town to go search for something cool in those other cities. You wanted to make sure our city was just as cool.
Absolutely. And I also wanted people in the arts to be able to build a career here. I don't want people to have to leave Arizona to build a career. That's just not right.
Yeah. As someone who might own a business, they're listening to this, they're learning about Local First. I know that you have so many different programs for business owners. Mm-hmm. How can they benefit from joining?
There's so much benefit. We try to make the annual dues are incredibly affordable because we don't want them to be a barrier. And that gives you entree into our local learning lab, the work that we're doing to provide hands-on technical assistance. So no matter what size business you are, if you are just starting out and you need connections, or if you have 20 employees and you're trying to win government contracts, you're, trying to figure out how to open up that second location, or you're just introducing a new POS system. So it runs the gamut. We deploy technical assistance providers. We offer hands-on technical assistance. Just the networking. Last night I was at an opening, a ribbon cutting for a third location for a business called Retail Therapy. And that was one of the things they said is, you've got to join local first. I mean, the network of support that they've received in order to springboard into their third location is it's just transformative. And partly we are business owners and we're in a nonprofit now, so we can offer affordable assistance to help you get wherever you're going.
Don't you love that? Don't you love saying that, Kimber?
I do. It's all those things that I wish I had.
Yeah, no doubt. I know that you're working on a new program to help businesses save money and also save the planet. Tell me what you have up your sleeve now.
Well, we started working on helping small businesses get green years ago, and we've developed a green business boot camp that really helps people understand the different ways that they can do that. And the successes coming out of this are quite remarkable. So we've got businesses that are now doing rainwater harvesting, or it can be simple things too. It can be simply, we have low interest loans we can offer for small businesses to be able to upgrade their HVAC equipment or replace leaky pipes with a goal of lowering their overhead on a month-to-month basis. We know that entrepreneurs of color on average are spending about 30% more on their water and energy bills because they're running outdated equipment. And you can't just go to a bank and get money to update equipment. However, especially if you're just a small one shop, but we've got those dollars for you, and we also have the training, and we can help you figure out where your expenses are coming from, make those updates, and also implement new projects, whether you want to go off grid and get some solar, or you, like I said, rainwater harvesting. There's a wide variety of projects. We just helped a small hotel up in northern Arizona install all solar, and so for that little hotel, that's going to be transformative in terms of a month-to-month savings.
And we think of rural Arizona. A lot of us from the city go escape there in the summers or whatnot. Local First is dedicated to uplifting rural Arizona. You want us to think of them when we go on staycations, vacations. Tell me about your work in rural AZ.
Sure. So it's extensive, but I'll start by just reminding, in terms of getting out there and spending your dollars, Arizonans spend $6.5 billion a year vacationing in Southern California. That's B with a B. Yeah. So if we could just redirect 10% of that. So what we've created is at ruralaz.com. You can go and learn about dozens of small rural towns, learn about what they have to offer, whether it's arts and culture, food and dining, outdoor sports and recreation, or history, heritage, and tradition. Go into the website, explore. You can build your own itinerary, and there's so much fun stuff to do out there. I absolutely love and recommend rural Arizona. The other area where we're working is really to uplift some of the innovation that's happening out in our rural communities as well. There's just these great companies, you can work from anywhere these days. Yeah. So great companies that are out there for a long time, but also just springing up that we're trying to elevate and shine a light on. And just developing those entrepreneurial ecosystems is critically important out there as well. You have one business there that may support a graphic designer, a website developer, an accountant. And so that keeps important dollars and jobs right there in those communities. And with our tribal communities, we're doing a lot of extensive work as well. We're working with the San Carlos Apache Cattle Ranchers Association to help them develop a new market for beef beef that is hormone free, just a wide variety of work that's happening out there to create truly, our mission is to create a diverse and inclusive Arizona economy. Everyone should be able to be successful.
And one that can sustain itself, because during the pandemic, we saw how much outreach we needed from other places. With our food chain, I know that you all work a lot with our food makers here, our food growers.
Yes. So generally, we are working on the issue in Arizona that we have a broken food system, which means we import a lot of foods. Or, for example, people always can relate to the fact we grow tomatoes, we ship them off so that we can import somebody else's tomatoes, and that's what we do over and over again. So, working on keeping more of the food that we grow here, working to make sure that the food we're growing is desert adapted as much as possible. And then we have 4 commercial kitchens that we're running that we're using as vital incubator spaces to help grow food entrepreneurs. And that's, again, at every stage. They might be taking an Arizona grown produce or a crop and turning it into a product like a hummus or a sauce that you can actually find at the farmer's market or even in a grocery store. So, trying to keep more of these products here in Arizona keeps more dollars here and helps us be more resilient.
Do you think people are getting on board with the whole local movement, with what they're eating, with what they're buying?
I do. We have a partnership right now with the University of Arizona where we're developing a brand and more awareness about how people have heard for a long time about eating within the seasons, and now we're going to be talking about more how we can eat more food that is sustainable and resilient in the desert Southwest. Our website is Good Food Finder at goodfoodfinder.com. You can learn a lot more about indigenous foods, native foods to this region, and how we can access them, how to prepare them, etc.
So now we got a cooking show next. Cooking show,
right.
Why not? Well, we have to
That's
cook all local, right?
Well, it's fun.
It is fun, and it's fun to experiment. And we worked together during the pandemic, again, going around rural Arizona, shining the spotlight on them, and it is so fun to explore our own state.
Oh, I can't tell you, and growing up here as well, how many people moved here and they vacation every year in San Diego, but they can't tell you where Cottonwood is. And
You and I, we know where Cottonwood. That's the last time I saw you.
That's right, exactly. And the reality is these are amazing small towns. People come from around the world to visit our small towns, and yet people that live in the greater Phoenix area are reluctant to get out there and explore. I was talking to a winemaker in southern Arizona who said the only time we see Phoenicians is when their family members come from Canada or Europe, and they end up going, oh yeah, we do have a wine scene here, so let's get out and explore it. So isn't that an interesting state of mind that we have? So our goal is to build that hometown pride and get people aware and proud of what we have going on here.
So may I challenge our listeners to travel local this 2024. We have a new year. We have the great season, our best season of the year coming up right here as we enter into spring.
Beautiful. It is beautiful out there.
So you were down south in southern Arizona talking to a winemaker. Do you have any, what kind of wineries should we be going to?
Oh my
vineyards?
gosh. So out in Sonoita, Dos Cabezas Vineyards has won all sorts of international awards. And then Pavle Milik, some folks may know Pavle, his past with F&B in Scottsdale, went out there and opened Los Miliks. So he's growing food, but also opened up just a world-class place to stay. Kent Callaghan Vineyards is out there. There's just some amazing, and again, these are highly awarded world-class wines, and yet people in Arizona are still a little bit unaware, and they're certainly not carrying these winemakers around on their shoulders, like they should be. So I would encourage folks to get out. There's also Wilcox, and then there's also the Verde Valley, which a lot of people know about the Verde Valley in the Cottonwood area. And of course, Maynard Keenan is a well-known winemaker up there. Merkin Vineyards has just invested a lot of money in opening up a brand new restaurant on the side of the hill that, if you have not seen it, it is truly jaw-dropping.
That's where I saw you last.
Yes.
And it is incredible.
Yeah.
That is, so I want to start making a list for people and myself. So Cottonwood, and go see that vineyard, because he was creating a space where you could see the vines grow, see the winemaking process, and enjoy the wine while having dinner upon that hilltop.
All in one place.
Right there. And then you could stay at the tavern, which is locally owned,
Yes.
right there as well. Sonoida, because I feel like a lot of times we visit northern Arizona, we forget to go south. I went to Tucson recently on that purpose of wanting to go south. So I think Sonoida would be a good field trip to do as well for folks.
Absolutely. And again, you want to look up Los Milix, and there's the Dos Cabezas Vineyards. Dos Cabezas also has a great Airbnb where you can stay there. There's just wonderful people, fantastic food. And the landscape, one of the things about Arizona that I love so much is, within a couple of hours, you can be in rolling fields of, beautiful golden plants, or you can go into an area where you've got hardscapes, these giant rock formations. Of course, the saguaros, the ponderosa pines. Every time I tell people, I'm up in the pines, they're like, in Arizona, around the country, they don't know the diverse terrain that we have. So it's so great to just get out and explore.
So maybe we love San Diego. Maybe that one trip that you're thinking about going to San Diego, you go explore Arizona instead this year.
That's right.
For folks who maybe are not business owners, so they can't contribute to Local First Arizona as a business owner, how can we?
Well, there's many ways to contribute. Local First is a 501c3. So there's, we are a qualifying charitable tax organization. So at the end of the year, here you are filing your taxes. You can get a dollar for dollar credit on your Arizona taxes. So if you owe the state of Arizona money, you can give it to us instead and have that debt just removed. You can volunteer. We're always looking for I have to say, our volunteers are the best, and you get to volunteer at events like Devour, the Arizona Fall Fest, and we're really looking for people who are environmentally conscious who want to volunteer at our events. All of our events are towards zero waste, which means we can take an event with, tens of thousands of people and have minimal waste because of the hard work that we do to tee up our vendors, and also to make sure that we're educating folks who are out there, and just people who have different types of expertise. If you're a semi-retired business owner, we can use you. I mean, take that knowledge and help other business owners along the way. So I would just encourage folks, if they're curious and they want to get involved, to reach out to us at localfirstaz.com. And again, you can touch all these different things that we're working on that are incredibly transformative for the future of our state.
You mentioned events with thousands of people. I'm thinking Fall Fest. Was that Fall Fest?
Fall Festival. We had a little bit more than 20,000 people out there this year. It was the largest one that we've ever done. And we had just hundreds of vendors, all different types of vendors. And it was just a beautiful day. We call it a day to celebrate Arizona. It was really a day to build that hometown pride.
Margaret T. Hans Park is where you hosted. How many years have you been doing the Fall Festival now?
Oh, gosh. Pop quiz. I think 16, maybe 17. Yeah, 17 years, I believe. So next year, when we get to, it's usually the first Saturday in November. That'll be our 18th. And it will, I assure you, it will be even bigger. We made a huge splash.
And it's a perfect time to start shopping for the holiday season. It's beautiful weather, like you said. It really is. You want to make your list, because I've gone before and had that mistake of you get overwhelmed because you don't have your list together. So if you have a list together on November 1st and you're hitting up the Fall Festival, you can knock it out and be done and ready to go and enjoy the day.
Right.
And you bring so many people together. It's so much fun.
And the other thing I just want to mention that people don't realize is, we run business accelerator programs that are designed to help entrepreneurs grow. And the Fall Festival has dozens of those that have graduated from our programs. We have our Fuerza Local program, which is a Spanish language business accelerator. We have a We Rise, which is focused on African-American, African immigrant entrepreneurs. And then we have all of our other business acceleration programs and the one-on-one technical assistance I mentioned. So it's really heartwarming to see so many folks out there that have graduated from our different boot camps and business accelerator programs really showing what they've got.
So let me try to squeeze a little free advice out of you. And for my business owners who are listening, the people who are thinking, this is the year. This is the year I jump out on my own. This is the year I'm going to do it. What advice, besides join local first, which I already tell people, Kimber. I already tell people.
Right.
What would you tell someone?
So I think it's a mindset. And what I would encourage people to look deep inside and make sure they're comfortable with risk, make sure they're comfortable with failing and adjusting, because being an entrepreneur is really about how do you pivot. People look at what I've done and they think that it was always that way. No, there's adjustments, there's things that I dropped because they weren't working. You have to be not only an ideator, but comfortable with, cutting things. I think during the pandemic, we really saw people who had pieces of their business that were failing, that were reluctant to let them go because of that emotional attachment. You really need to be able to assess your risk and be honest about what's working and what's not. And then finally, I think you've got to be able to jump in with both feet. I've seen too many folks put their toe in, and they're risk averse. At the end of the day, they put their toe in, they want to keep their day job and do it on the side. And that's okay for a little while, but you need to have a plan and a deadline to jump in with both feet. Otherwise, it's going to stay in the hobby zone. And that's okay. There's no judgment. But if you really want to jump in and make a business work, you've got to jump in. And that would be my biggest advice is, even if you're just putting a toe in right now, have a plan, have a deadline, and dedicate as much possible time as you can to what the future is. Because otherwise, you're going to stay in the same place. You're going to keep your job and you're going to go, gosh, I should have jumped in a long time ago.
Hate to live with that regret.
Yes.
Don't want to do that.
That's right.
That 17, 18-year-old who started that business, was it 19?
It was 19.
Kimber?
Yeah. Yes.
What were you planning to do? Were you planning to be a business owner? I know you grew up the daughter of business owners.
I did. I grew up the daughter of business owners. So I went in and signed a 3-year lease at day one.
So this was it.
This was it.
So you did it. You jumped in with both feet that day.
I jumped in with both feet, and people from other bigger stores came by and they chuckle under their breath and say, well, that's not going to last.
I bet they love seeing you on TV now. Is that her getting us more money for Arizona businesses? I remember that, girl.
I did. I intended very much to build a great record store. And I think what's important to me, Jamie, is that the record store, and it still is, it's a safe place. One of the things that really touches me is what a diverse array of people are music lovers, and it's a safe place. And so I love our customers. Still to this day, when I go there, it's heartwarming.
You just remodeled.
We did.
What happened? Tell me.
Well, I was years ago when the media was beating the drum that it was the death of the record store. A lot of record stores were closing and or giving up. I decided to hunker down and bought that building. And it was smaller than our Tempe store, but I thought we'll be safe here. And, it's sort of like in the life raft,
Well, you're Central and Camelback.
I know.
That piece of land is worth something.
At the time, at the time, people were like, you're leaving ASU's basically footprint to go to this random intersection. Are you crazy? But luckily, people came in around me, and now it is just a beacon of locally owned businesses there. And so here we were, sort of, stuck in 1,000 square feet, and I don't want to move. So we decided to add on another 600 or 700 square feet. So, and it's come out great. We're, it's how it is when you have to open when you're still dusting, essentially. We're still putting the final touches on it, but I'm just thrilled with how it's come out. And it's given us an opportunity to have more storage on site, more mail order processing. We're buying bigger and bigger collections, and we needed more room to adequately assess condition and price merchandise. So it's just going to be great.
What kind of music do you listen to?
That's a great question for me. Over my life, I've really explored, I would say, a real variety of music. But in particular, now I listen to a lot of Afrobeat. And I listen to a lot of what would just be called general singer-songwriter. Just a great lyricist with a guitar, a really small band is actually something that I find really appealing as well. And I play shoegaze music. So for me, you know, the whole genre of shoegaze has been a big part of my life since it really started in the early 90s.
What is it? I don't know it.
Well, generally, shoegaze came out of England, and yet we've always had bands here in Arizona reflecting that back to them. But wall of sound, guitars, vocals that aren't necessarily out in front, but they become more like an instrument and very textural. So bands like Catherine Wheel or My Bloody Valentine would fall into that genre.
Okay. Any Arizona bands you're loving?
You know, I'm out of the loop right now. I have a few that I would say I love the songwriter Caleb Daly, and he always has a rotating cast of characters. The Sweet Bleeders, I think, are a wonderful band, but with everything going on at Local First, I'm sad to say I don't make it out as much as I used to.
On your way in, you were on a Zoom call, driving down the road to do a podcast. What happens after this? What is your day like? Is it just crazy?
It is. Every day is just packed. But this afternoon, I'm lucky I get to spend the afternoon with our leadership team at Local First Arizona doing some strategic planning.
Tell them hi for me.
I sure will.
So what are you loving in AZ right now? What are you reading? What are you drinking? What are you eating?
So I'm reading a book right now that's called Wealth Supremacy that really talks about this extractive economy and what corporations have been doing. And I always take whatever I read and apply it here to Arizona. But I just got back from Alpine, which was fantastic. My husband and I rented a tiny cabin. It was literally, you know how they have tiny homes?
Yes.
It was a tiny cabin in Alpine, and it was so remote and beautiful. It was snow and pines and silence, and you know, I was cozy on the couch with a blanket just reading, and that was a dream.
She relaxes for a beat, for one moment. Well, Kimber Lanning of Local First Arizona and Stinkweeds Records, Modified Arts as well. It is always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate what you do for our city, for Arizona, your love of local. We all get to just shine in it. So thank you for doing the heavy lifting.
And Jaime, I can't underscore how much we love you and the light that you shine on local independent businesses across the state of Arizona. Your background, your family has left its mark on Arizona, and we couldn't do this work without you.
Thank you, Kimber. Thanks for listening to Jaime's Local Love, the podcast. I'm your host, Jaime Serretta. Our technician is Tom Heidinger. Our editors are Lorraine Shearing and Gina Coy. Do you know a business worthy of some local love? Email me at jserretta@azfamily.com. Follow us at facebook.com/Serretta and Instagram @Serretta News. Make sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star review, please. And tell your friends about the podcast and the businesses we feature to show your local love. You can find us on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you get your podcasts.
Jaime's Local Love, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.